Many years ago, there was a great kingdom. The king ruled the land with care. He was strong and wise. People in the kingdom loved him. He helped the poor and listened to their problems. His castle stood on a high hill. It was big, white, and full of gold. The king had only one child, a daughter. She was kind, smart, and very beautiful. The king's daughter was loved by all. She often walked in the gardens. She talked to birds and gave food to the poor. Her dress was always clean and bright. Her smile made people happy. Many rich men wanted to marry her. But the king said, "Only someone good and brave can marry my daughter." The girl wanted love, not gold. She dreamed of a simple and happy life. Far from the castle, there was a small village. It was quiet and poor. In that village lived a boy. He had no parents, no family, and no money. He slept under trees and worked for food. He was kind and honest. People liked him, but could not help him. Every day he looked at the sky and dreamed of a better life. He believed something good would happen. One day the boy went to the town. It was busy and full of people. He cleaned shoes and carried bags. He saw a big door and many guards. Behind the door was the king's garden. He stood and watched the beautiful trees. Then he saw the king's daughter. She was picking flowers and smiling. The boy had never seen someone so beautiful. The boy came back every day. He stayed near the garden. He only watched the girl from far. He never spoke to her. He knew she was a princess, and he was just a poor boy. But his heart was full of love. He waited and hoped. He smiled when he saw her laugh. That was enough for him. One day the girl saw the boy. She walked closer and smiled at him. The boy looked down and said nothing. She gave him a flower and said, "You are kind to watch and not disturb." Then she walked away. The boy held the flower in his hand. His heart felt warm and full of light. He smiled all day. The next day the girl came again. She brought him bread and water. She said, "You look tired." The boy said, "Thank you." It was the first time they talked. The girl asked his name. He told her, she told him hers. It was the beginning of something new. They smiled at each other. The days passed slowly. They met every morning. They talked about the sky, the trees, and dreams. The boy felt happy. The girl laughed more. They became close friends. But the boy knew something. He could not marry a princess. He was just a poor boy. But he didn't stop hoping. One morning, the princess brought the boy a small book. It was old but clean. She said, "This book helped me dream. I want you to read it." The boy took the book with care. He could read a little, and he tried hard. Every night he read under the moonlight. The stories made him happy. He dreamed bigger dreams. He wanted to be more than a poor boy. The king did not know about the boy. But one day, a guard saw them talking. The guard told the king. The king became angry. He said, "My daughter must not speak to poor boys." He called his daughter and asked her, "Why do you speak with him?" She said, "He is kind, he is my friend." The king said, "You are a princess, he is not for you." The girl felt sad, but she stayed calm. The king told the guards, "Do not let the boy near the garden." The next day the boy came and saw the closed gates. The guards stopped him. He asked, "Did I do something wrong?" They said, "You cannot come here again." The boy's heart broke. He walked away slowly. He felt pain in his chest. He missed her already, but he did not give up. The boy went to work harder. He cleaned more shoes. He carried more bags. He saved every coin he got. At night, he read the book again. The words gave him hope. He said to himself, "I will not stop. I want to be better." He started learning from old people. He asked questions, he listened and wrote notes. He wanted to grow. One day, a kind teacher came to the town. He saw the boy and said, "You ask good questions. Do you want to learn?" The boy said, "Yes." The teacher gave him more books. He taught him to read and write. Well, the boy learned fast. He became smarter every day. People started to notice. They said, "This boy is different now." The princess was also sad. She looked for the boy every day. She wrote letters, but could not send them. She sat alone in the garden. She missed his stories. She missed his smile. She said to the flowers, "He is not just a poor boy. He is strong and kind." Her heart stayed with him. She waited and hoped. Many months passed. The boy worked and studied. He bought better clothes. He helped other poor children. He told them stories and gave them food. He did not forget his past, but he became someone new. He was still poor, but he had respect. People started to love him. They said, "He is not like before." One evening, the king walked through the town. He saw the boy reading to children. The king stopped and listened. He saw the children smile. He saw the boy teach them with care. The king asked, "Who is this young man?" A man said he was once very poor, but now he teaches and helps. The king looked at the boy. He did not speak, but he did not walk away. The king returned to his castle, but kept thinking about the boy. He remembered the boy's face and his kind smile. He thought about the children who laughed around him. That night the king could not sleep. He looked at the stars and asked himself, "Did I make a mistake?" The princess also sat by her window. She looked at the same stars and wished to see the boy again. Their hearts were full of hope. The next day the king called his men. He said, "Find out more about the boy." The guards went to the town. They asked people about him. Everyone spoke well of the boy. They said, "He is honest, brave, and kind." They told stories of how he helped the sick and taught the young. When the guards returned, they told the king everything. The king listened carefully and stayed quiet for a long time. The king decided to meet the boy himself. He sent a message to him. The message said, "Come to the castle tomorrow." The boy was afraid at first. He thought, "Did I do something wrong?" But he also felt a little hope. He cleaned his best clothes and washed his face. Early the next morning he walked to the castle. His heart was beating fast, but he walked with strong steps. At the castle the guards opened the gates for him. He walked inside the big garden. The trees were tall and the flowers were bright. He remembered the first time he saw the princess there. His heart felt heavy with memories. A man led him to the king's hall. The boy stood straight and looked around. Everything was grand and shiny, but he stayed calm and ready. The king sat on a tall chair and looked at the boy. He asked, "Are you the one who teaches the children?" The boy said, "Yes, your majesty." His voice was clear but soft. The king asked, "Why do you do it?" The boy answered, "Because they need help, and I was once like them." The king watched him closely. He saw the honesty in his eyes. He felt something change in his heart. After a long silence, the king smiled a little. He said, "You are brave and kind. I was wrong to judge you before." The boy's eyes grew wide with surprise. The king continued, "A good heart is more important than gold." The boy bowed his head and said, "Thank you, your majesty." The king looked pleased. The guards in the hall smiled too. The princess heard about the meeting. She ran to the garden with joy. She waited near the big fountain. When she saw the boy, she smiled brightly. He smiled back. For a moment they said nothing. They just looked at each other. Their hearts spoke without words. The princess gave him a flower again. He took it and held it close. The king watched them from a window. He saw their smiles and knew their hearts were true. He said to himself, "Love and kindness build a strong kingdom." That evening, the king made a new rule. He said, "A man's heart matters more than his name or gold." The people of the kingdom cheered. They loved their king even more. The boy's dream was no longer just a dream. After the king's new rule, the people were very happy. They spoke about the boy who changed the king's heart. In every street, his name was known. The children called him teacher. The poor called him friend. The rich began to respect him too. But the boy stayed the same. He was still kind, still humble, and still full of hope. His dream had started to come true. The princess met the boy every day. They walked in the gardens and talked for hours. They laughed together and shared stories. The girl spoke about the castle and her childhood. The boy spoke about the village and the streets. Their lives were different, but their hearts were the same. They both wanted a simple, peaceful life. Love grew between them slow and strong. One afternoon the boy sat with the king. The king said, "I see your love for my daughter." The boy stayed quiet and looked down. The king smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, I see something special in you." The boy said, "I love her, but I am still poor." The king said, "You are rich in heart, that is enough." The boy felt tears in his eyes. He had never heard such kind words. The king asked the boy about his dreams. The boy said, I want to build a school. I want to teach every child who has no money." The king nodded and said, "That is a good dream." The boy continued, "I want to give them books and food like others gave to me." The king was touched. He said, "You have my help." The boy smiled and thanked him. A new dream had begun. Work on the school started soon. People from all over the kingdom helped. Some gave wood, some gave food, and some gave time. The boy worked with his hands building walls and painting doors. The princess came often and helped the children read. The king watched from afar and felt proud. The school stood near the palace, tall and strong. It was full of love and light. One day, the boy stood in front of the children. He said, "This school is yours. Learn well and help others." The children clapped and cheered. The princess stood beside him. Her eyes were full of joy. The boy looked at her and smiled. He was not just a poor boy anymore. He was a teacher, a builder, and a leader. He had found his place in the world. That night the king called the people to the palace. He stood in front of them and said, "Today is a special day." He looked at the boy and the princess. He said, "I bless their love. They will be married in spring." The crowd cheered loudly. The boy looked at. The princess took the boy's hand and smiled. Everyone now knew about their love. When the village where the boy was born heard the news, the people cried with joy. They said, "One of us will marry the king's daughter." Children sang songs about dreams and hope. The boy came back to the village with the princess. He gave food to the hungry and toys to the little ones. He said, "Never stop dreaming. Even small lives can shine bright." His words stayed in their hearts forever. Spring came with flowers and warm winds. The palace was full of music and colours. People from all over the kingdom came. They wanted to see the wedding of the princess and the poor boy. But he was no longer poor. He was now known as the kind teacher. He wore simple clothes but looked proud. The princess wore a dress of white and gold. Her smile was bright like the sun. The wedding was held in the garden, the same place where they first met. The trees stood tall and birds sang softly. The king gave the boy the princess's hand. The boy bowed and said, "I will always take care of her." The princess said, "I've loved him from the very start." The people cheered and clapped. The garden was full of joy and love. It was a day everyone would remember. After the wedding, they didn't live in the big castle. They chose a small house near the school. They wanted to live a simple life, close to the people. Every morning, the boy taught at the school. The princess helped the little ones read. At night, they walked in the garden and talked. Their love was quiet, strong, and full of peace. The people loved them more every day. The king often visited them. He laughed with the children and ate simple meals. He said, "This is the life I never knew I needed." He saw his daughter happy and free. He saw the boy become a kind and wise man. The king told the people, "This man taught me more than any rich lord ever could." And the people listened. The school grew bigger. More teachers came to help. More children came to learn. Some were just like the boy had once been, poor, lonely, and without hope. Now they had books, warm meals, and dreams. The boy told them, "You are the future. Never forget where you come from." His words gave strength to many hearts. His story became a light for others. The princess made a garden next to the school. She taught the children to grow flowers and food. They learned to care for plants, for animals, and for each other. She said, "Even the smallest seed can grow into something great." The children loved the garden. They gave names to the trees and sang to the plants. Many visitors came to see the school and garden. They asked, "How did this all begin?" The boy always said, "With a flower, a smile, and a book." He never spoke of gold or power. He only talked about love, hope, and hard work. People left feeling inspired. They took his ideas back to their towns. Kindness began to grow everywhere. Years passed. The boy and the princess still loved each other deeply. They didn't need gold or fancy things. They had each other, their school, and their people. The kingdom was full of light and joy. The king grew old, but smiled every day. He said, "My daughter chose well." The story of the poor boy and the princess became the story of the whole kingdom. The school became the heart of the land. Children from many places came to learn. The boy and the princess grew older, but their love stayed the same. They taught together and walked in the garden hand in hand. Their home was small, but it was full of happiness. People still called him teacher, and her kind heart. They were loved by everyone. One day the king grew weak. He called his daughter and the boy. "My time is near," he said, "but I am at peace." He looked at the boy and smiled. "You were once poor, but now you are rich in love." He gave them his blessing and closed his eyes. The boy held his hand. The princess kissed his forehead. The room was quiet. After the king passed, the people asked the boy to lead the kingdom. He said, "I do not want to be a king. I want to be a helper, a friend." The people agreed. They called him the people's voice. He kept the school open. He helped other towns build their own schools. His dreams spread far and wide. At the end of each day, he and the princess sat under the stars. They remembered the day they met, the flower, the smile, and the garden. The boy said, "I had nothing, but you gave me everything." The princess smiled and said, "You had love." That was enough. Their story was told for many years. It was a story of kindness, dreams, and love that changed everything. The kingdom they left behind was full of hope, peace, and joy. People remembered their names with love. They remembered the boy who changed the world.